In January 2010, a Reddit user made a post that at first seemed entirely ordinary, a short, simple obituary for an old friend. But hidden in plain sight, buried deep within the source code of a connected website, people would later find something chilling. These were not random notes, jokes, or harmless web developer comments. They were cryptic messages that looked very much like instructions. Instructions for something dark, organized, and possibly deadly. Some of them read like orders for covert missions. Others appeared to list payment amounts, deadlines, and operational requirements. To some people who stumbled upon them, these were nothing less than proof of an active assassination network quietly using the internet to communicate in secret. To others, it all looked like the work of an eccentric troll weaving an elaborate hoax. But one thing was certain. Once people started digging, the story that would unfold was stranger than anyone expected. The name at the center of it all was Religion of Peace, a long-time Reddit user who claimed to be an older man, possibly in his 70s, and a veteran of the military. His posts across the site were blunt and unapologetic. He had a sharp tongue, often offensive, sometimes laced with crude humor, and yet every now and then he would say things that didn't seem like ordinary internet banter. One phrase stood out among his many posts: spreading the Lake City quiet pills to the needy. At first glance, this might sound like some kind of inside joke, but Lake City is the name of a real ammunition manufacturing plant in Missouri, and quiet pills could be a dark euphemism for bullets, tools that make people quiet permanently. At the time, hardly anyone thought twice about it. Then, on January 13, 2010, Religion of Peace posted something that would mark the beginning of the mystery. He wrote, "Milo died today." In that same post, he included a link to an obituary. It wasn't an ordinary obituary. It told the story of a man named Milo, described as a soldier at the age of just 14, someone who had fought in wars, traveled extensively, and been involved in a lifetime of shady deals. The text painted a picture of a man who had lived outside the boundaries of conventional life, a man who had seen things, done things, and perhaps crossed lines most people wouldn't dare approach. For a few days, the post and obituary remained just another odd corner of Reddit. But then, some curious users decided to take a closer look at the website linked to Religion of Peace's posts. The site was called LakeCityQuietPills.com. On the surface, it looked like an image hosting service, nothing particularly unusual. But when users began examining the HTML source code of its pages, they found something startling. Hidden among the ordinary code were lines of text that were never meant to be seen by casual visitors. These were written almost like classified ads, but their content was anything but ordinary. They included requests for people to be ready for quick turnaround, notes that no kids were allowed, mentions of targets being in-country, and even references to needing teams of experienced personnel. Some messages read like they were coordinating movements or assigning people to jobs. There were dates, payment figures, and geographic hints. To those who found them, it was like stumbling onto a digital bulletin board for contract killers. Things became even more intriguing when events in the real world seemed to mirror the strange postings. Just a few weeks later, in February 2010, the news broke that Mahmoud al-Mabhouh, a high-ranking official of Hamas, had been assassinated in his Dubai hotel room. The operation had been carried out with military precision. Surveillance footage released by Dubai authorities showed multiple individuals entering and leaving the hotel, switching disguises, and moving in a coordinated fashion. The operation used forged passports, secure communications, and carefully timed movements. It was the work of professionals, possibly intelligence operatives, possibly mercenaries. And here's where the internet's theories began to spiral. Some of the hidden postings on the Lake City Quiet Pills website, discovered just before the assassination, seemed to match the timing and scale of the Dubai operation. They mentioned the need for teams, deadlines in late January, and budgets that seemed unusually high. Was this a coincidence? Or had internet sleuths stumbled onto a hub for hiring and managing contract assassins, one that had just played a part in a high-profile killing? Not everyone was convinced. Skeptics pointed out that nothing in the HTML code explicitly named the Dubai target, and there was no direct evidence linking Religion of Peace, Milo, or anyone else involved with the website to the killing. They argued it was possible, perhaps even likely, that this was all an elaborate role-play conducted by people with military backgrounds or just an interest in crafting a realistic underground scenario. But those who believed the darker theory pointed out how specific some of the postings were and how well they lined up with known events. And there were other oddities. Some digging into Religion of Peace's history revealed old forum posts on sites that predated Reddit, suggesting that Milo had been a real person and that the network behind Lake City Quiet Pills could have been operating quietly for years. There were hints about smuggling, weapons deals, and work overseas. Whether these were truthful accounts or creative fiction was impossible to say. Over time, the mystery deepened, but the trail began to fade. The site continued to be online for a few more years, and the HTML code periodically updated with new postings. But in 2013, Lake City Quiet Pills disappeared from the internet completely. The domain went dark, and with it, whatever operation, real or imagined, that had been running there seemed to vanish. All that remained were archives, screenshots, and the theories people had built. Some continued to dig, piecing together scraps of information, mapping possible connections to real-world events, and trying to identify the people behind the usernames. Others moved on, dismissing it as an elaborate hoax that had simply run its course. Today, more than a decade later, the truth remains unknown. Was Lake City Quiet Pills the online face of a covert mercenary network using the anonymity of the internet to communicate in code? Was it an art project, a form of interactive fiction, or a massive trolling operation that fooled thousands of people? Or was it something stranger still, a hybrid of truth and fiction, designed so cleverly that no one could separate the two? Whatever the case, the mystery endures. And somewhere, in the shadows, there may be someone who knows exactly what Lake City Quiet Pills really was, and if they do, they've chosen to remain silent.